Hello and welcome to In the Envelope, an awards podcast from Backstage. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage, and I'm here to give you a front row seat to the industry's most exciting awards races. Who is in the running? How can you, listener, win a statue of your own? What makes awards-worthy film, television, and theater? We're sitting down with some very talented actors to get that insider's perspective on these questions and more, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
I keep reminding myself that I'm so lucky to be on that stage every night and just really enjoying every moment. I keep getting that advice, just enjoy this time, because I think so much you're so tired and you're so there's so many events. The Tony season is wild. Yeah. And getting lost in all of that can be tough to kind of keep your head in the game. And I thought wow, during the Tony junket yesterday, people kept asking what are you thinking? What do you think? And I'm thinking, I have 2 shows today. And I was but actually that's wonderful, because this is why I'm here. It's to do the work.
Welcome back, listeners, to another season, to a mini season of In the Envelope, an awards podcast from Backstage, because we are, for the very first time, this is a very exciting day, we are launching a series of episodes pegged to this year's Tony Awards. You thought this was a podcast just about film and TV? Well, first we thought it was just about TV, and then it turns out it was about film. It turns out it's also encompassing theater. And me being a total Broadway dork and a thespian who lives in New York and who sees theater all the damn time, it is very fitting and very exciting that we got to sit with some of Broadway's most exciting people, including today's guest, whose voice you just heard, Lindsay Mendez. She is the perfect person to kind of kick off this mini season of Tony's episodes, because she's a genius. And I don't just mean she's a genius on stage, which is true. However, she also runs Actor Therapy, which caters very specifically to the Backstage crowd. She has a lot of practical wisdom, as well as the kind of more technical musical theater-y stuff of how to audition and how to make it in the biz. And we talked in our interview about, I think, one of the big points that has come up in her classes, and that certainly came up in this interview a lot, was when you're starting off and you want to become a musical theater star, you got to find your niche. Yes, you got to do it all, and you got to say yes to work, but you also have to establish what you're good at. And that's something that Lindsay Mendez did from an early age. She went to a performing arts high school. She won this song contest that got her, we talked a little bit about this, but it got her the agent, it got her to New York. And she put in the work, the years of actorly struggle that most hardworking Broadway triple threats have put in. And this is just a treat. This is really just a wonderful interview. And we are so pleased to serve it to you today. The Tony Awards are happening on June 10th. And this past Broadway season was a prime example of the best that theater has to offer. It was a very exciting time to be a New York theater goer. And Carousel has been nominated for a ton of Tony Awards, including for 5 of its performers. Lindsay Mendez is one of them. There is a little bit you need to know about Carousel, because we do make reference to some plot points. For example, Billy Bigelow, the main character, who in this production is played by Joshua Henry, he dies at the beginning of the second act. And the second act is devoted a little bit to his journey in the afterlife. This is a Rodgers and Hammerstein show. It's Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein's maybe one of their weirder shows, but it's also very much a beloved show. Lindsay and I kind of get into that. Lindsay does a great job of explaining that, what that means. This particular production is directed by the great Jack O'Brien, wonderful director I admire. The choreographer, Justin Peck. It was cast by Bernie Telsey, which is also important for actors to know. And it was produced by Scott Rudin, one of Scott Rudin's many productions on Broadway this season. I think that we need to get straight to it, because Lindsay Mendez dropped some wisdom on us, and I can't wait for you all to hear it. Let's take a quick break and then get to this interview. Lindsay Mendez is Tony nominated for her irresistible Carrie Pipperidge in the current revival of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel. She got her big break in the off-Broadway musical from Pasek and Paul, Dogfight, directed by Joe Mantello, and has since played Elphaba the Wicked Witch in Wicked and appeared in last year's Significant Other. Along with her versatility as an actor and sensational singing voice, Lindsay co-owns and runs Actor Therapy, a musical theater masterclass series in New York, making her a fountain of actorly knowledge. Here it is, our interview with Tony nominee Lindsay Mendez. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome.
Tony nominee Lindsay Mendez.
Oh my God.
It's only been 2 days.
I know. It still feels not real.
How does it feel? How does it sound, Tony nominee Lindsay Mendez?
I mean, sounds pretty good to me. I'm like so. I think it still hasn't hit me in a lot of ways. Because I just feel so lucky to like be in that building and do this incredible role in this amazing show. So that all felt like the dream to just be in it. And
Yes.
this is like all these extras that are coming later are just they're insane.
Is there anything different in the performance itself, like the performance of the day you're nominated for Tony? Is that, first of all, do you get like entrance applause in a different way? Or
That night, I'm trying to think if we did or not. I definitely felt like I had a couple moments on stage thinking, oh, wow, I'm a Tony nominee now, and
Cool.
I'm here doing this. But at the same time, you know, you just do your show, and it's great.
You slip into this character, and you just inhabit her so fully, and so you just steal the show.
Thank you.
Act.
I don't think that's true. I love.
I can't wait to hear about it.
I love her. I think when I first read the script, when they first said like, are you interested in Carrie Pipperidge? And you know, I was like, what? That's soprano.
Oh, really?
So, you know, that's something I've never done. And so immediately I was like, they must be just insane. And then I read it and I thought, oh, wow, I really can see this person.
Interesting.
And I feel like through my whole career, that's always happened to me. Like the roles that I've played that I feel like were the best for me were the ones when I read them the first time, I was like, I can only see myself, like, I know cool. I'm the person who should do this.
Wonderful.
And that's how I felt with her. And so then I was like, well, you better figure out the music, little girl. And so I worked on it a lot and went back to, you know, voice teacher and got it in my body. But I just...
Got it in your body. Yeah, I have to ask about that stuff too. The
but
vocal technique stuff. For
oh
sure.
my gosh, yeah. But I love her, and then also the main accent is super helpful in finding her.
Right. Oh,
which we worked on.
Once you master it.
Insanely, yes. Yeah. Like because it's written in the text.
Gotcha.
But when you look at it, it almost looks Southern.
Right.
And
it's a queer sound to our.
Queer.
Yeah, it's a quiz.
Yeah,
exactly.
But once I learned it, I was like, oh, that's Carrie. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Like that like kind of like down home, like Mainer. Like,
right.
Oh yeah, I just love it.
And did you have a relationship with the show's music or?
Definitely. I mean, I grew up knowing the music. Yeah. Not so much the show though. I saw the production actually at Lincoln Center when Jessie played Carrie.
Oh, cool.
And I loved it, but that's cool. The only time I saw it, and I didn't. Even then, I had to kind of refresh myself with the story. I was like, "Oh yeah, he dies. He goes to heaven." Like,
same.
What?
Oh, same. Yeah. The second act, I was like, ooh,
I know. When he dies so early, you're like, "Wait, what's going to happen now?" Oh, wait. Oh.
Then he gets up.
Yeah, he's up. What's happening? It's strange.
It's a strange show.
For sure.
Especially for Rodgers and Hammerstein. It's a strange show.
For sure.
But so as a singer, I love this idea that you had to adjust your voice. You must have sung Rodgers and Hammerstein throughout your singing career.
I did I Can't Say No and, all the like more belty stuff.
The stuff that like singers in training kind of, that's how they cut their teeth a little bit.
Sure. Or like, If I Loved You when I was like 10, trying to just like build my voice. Mm-hmm. And then Sound of Music, obvi.
Yes, my favorite.
Mm-hmm, yes. Yeah. But definitely I never thought as an adult that there was a place for me in Rodgers and Hammerstein because I'm like, this little Mexican Jew girl, and I just didn't know that was, something for me.
Right. Oh, I have so many freaking questions. Okay, but first of all, for listeners who don't know about the Tony's junket, Lindsay and I yesterday spent literally 60 seconds. It was like, it's basically speed dating between journalists and nominees. But in your 60 seconds, you said really awesome, fascinating things. And one in particular, I definitely wanted to ask. I was like, aha, this is a perfect thing to ask in a podcast setting.
Oh, good. I don't even remember what happened yesterday. It was all such a blur.
Of course. But you had said something like, at the beginning of your careers, you have to find your niche as an actor.
Right.
And it's not until you establish that, or maybe you establish a little bit more of a reputation or a big break, that you then show versatility, maybe? Or like...
I think just that you're given the opportunity to show that you can do more than just the thing you kind of establish yourself as.
So it's not necessarily completely within your control.
No, I don't think so. It depends on if
Yeah.
you get an audition for it. I mean, I even think for Carrie, I mean, that was an outside-of-the-box choice for Telsey to think of me for this role. They had seen everyone for it.
See, I didn't know.
All my friends were going in for it, but I never even thought twice about like not being asked. I was like, well, that's not me. I mean, you know,
and that's because of the range.
I think also just because it's like to me it was this ingenue type of, you know, blonde, cute girl. I mean,
Sure.
I just didn't think of myself as playing Carrie. I know Audra had done it, but I don't know. Audra's this quintessential soprano.
Yes, indeed.
You know, and I didn't think of it.
Yeah. And so, but I look at your career and I do think like it is really hard to pigeonhole you, especially I think to my kind of untrained ear as a singer, it is, I find it's hard. I was so delighted and so surprised to hear you singing these high soprano notes.
Thank you.
In Rodgers and Hammerstein. But I know you as a belter as well, and I know you as a dramatic actress as well. It's all these different niches that you've found.
I mean, honestly, I've been so lucky to get to spread my wings in all of these different ways, and that's just because, you know, I think everyone who I've worked with has kind of taken a risk on me. I know this like about just my history. I'm not a like, well, it's either her or her choice. I'm like the choice that's way over like in the other state. And it's like we could go all these ways, or we could like gamble
Press
with Lindsay.
the Lindsay button.
And I know I'm a gamble, and I've definitely been told no before yes. Almost every job I've gotten, it's been no, and then months later, yes.
Wow.
And it's like a pattern. And so
Interesting.
I do feel like it's just with people take risk on me, and then I have to step up to the plate. And that place I feel like I function really well in. I love to be the worst at something.
Yeah,
and
to
be the worst in the room.
Yeah.
I thrive off of that. I don't know if it's
Where does
just
that come
masochistic
from?
or I don't know. I love to feel challenged and scared, and that's where I tend to risk the most, because I'm like, well, I'm minutes from being fired, so I might as well throw it all to the wall.
Yeah.
And
take those big risks.
Yeah, and I felt that way all through Dogfight. I felt like, I just felt like I could never get it right. And I remember Joe Mantello, one time we were like in rehearsal, and I was just trying, every time we would do the scene, he'd be like, okay, a couple things. And he would keep at me. And finally I just said, I want to get this right for you. And he said, Lindsay, it will never be right.
Ooh.
You have to give it up.
That's
it will
such a
never
good
be
thing to
right.
hear.
And it really set me free. You know, he was like, no matter what, we're going to find new things. And that's like the place you should live in. And I have, ever since that day, I've just taken that with me. And so I live in that space all the time. And I tell my students that all the time, you know?
It's especially true of theater.
Yes.
It never is there's no such thing as a perfect.
You can always find something else. And I love living in that space.
Right. And you could drive yourself crazy trying to make it perfect, and you could get really neurotic about it and beat yourself up about it, or you could kind of be kind.
100%.
And figure out what little things you can improve on just to be better.
Yeah, and I also think it allows you to be more present in the scenes and with your scene partners every day, to find new things and play with them and keep the show alive and snappy, and not feel like you know you're giving the same thing every night.
Yeah, well, I always find that really interesting, especially with musicals, because I feel like a trap that musical theater actors maybe could fall into is getting stuck in that rut of like lines on a page. Spoken lines can be shaken up a little bit more, it seems to me, than the music, which has to be its own thing.
Sure.
So you at the Broadway level don't have this problem, but like how do musical theater actors not fall into that rut of like, I am just reciting, I am not listening?
I mean, I constantly am after my students to monologue their stuff way before they ever put it to music.
Oh, cool.
And hear the sentences rather than hear the lyric kind of lay out with the tune. Because I think that if you follow, I mean, songs are, the scansion is set differently and totally. Every song is different, but you really have to take it as you're still telling the same story. You just happen to be singing at the same time. And I think now, like, the more modern musical theater kind of way of doing things is making it more about the text and less about just these long sung lines. Gotcha. Okay. But with Rodgers and Hammerstein, it's been really interesting to kind of do both things, like honor that this score is this score and really sing it, through long lines the way it wants to be sung, but still find that like 2018 sensibility and play with, the story you're telling. And that's been something that we've all played around with throughout this process. And I'm really proud of kind of how we've been able to blend both things.
Oh, you do that wonderfully. And I think it's true of comedy, of musical theater comedy.
Yes.
You can find those.
Totally. And there's so much. I mean, I'm the first night when we did the show and I did Mr. Snow and When the Children Are Asleep, and the lyrics land like just so well. And I just thought, wow, even if people know these lyrics already, they're like, it just works. And it's such a testament to like why this show is so
produced
a masterpiece and so, so timeless.
There's a reason that the classics are the classics.
100%.
But it's so cool to hear that you take responsibility as a 2018 actor.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you got to look at the story and say, okay, what can I handle as a woman reading and putting out there every day to an audience that also is, a lot of them very young people, a lot of them older people, but all of us living in this kind of crazy world we're living in now, and say like, what can I stand behind? I'm not going to play this character as a stupid woman or as someone who, you know what I mean, just like sits back and lets people beat on her. Yeah, like that's not how we're going to do this. We're going to find the power in all of these characters, and we're going to also like uncover the story about redemption, that like just because a path is set out for you, you don't have to like live that legacy. You know what I mean? People can change, people can be redeemed, and I think that story we all could really get behind in 2018.
Sure. Yeah, it's looking at it, you can't help but look at it through the glasses of the now.
Sure.
But were there any times of like, oh, I wish I could rewrite, because you can't rewrite anything. No. But it's all about the task before you is to find the things that you can update or the things that you can tweak.
Yeah, there were a few things that we were able to cut, which was great. One thing in particular that was tough was the scene with Jigger and Carrie, where he's kind of trying to seduce her in the woods.
Right.
I mean, and we cut a lot of that scene because there was a part of it that was like so unsavory that none of us could stomach it. We were just like, there's no way an audience is going to find this funny. Gotcha. They're just going to cringe.
Gotcha.
And we didn't want to put everybody through that. And I was like trying to make it work comedy-wise. And I don't even think... And Jack O'Brien was amazing. And he was just like, I can't stand it. We got to cut it. And
that's so interesting. So was that like a group? Like who makes that decision? Is it ultimately him?
Well, it's Jack and also the Ted Chapin of the Rodgers and Hammerstein estate.
Okay.
He had a huge part in kind of giving us the freedom to change and make snips, to say, if we want to keep this show alive, we have to make it palatable, for an audience of now.
And to make it relevant, to just make it resonate with...
Yeah. But then there were other hard things. There would be some things that I'd be like, oh, I hate that I have to figure out how to not hate that and understand why. And so I think there were a lot of moments of me kind of trying to figure out Carrie's angle on the things she says, because sometimes you're like, oh, why would you say that? But I also I also kind of love those moments. I love to say something and hear an audience go, oh, I forget. I think I say, right when he dies, right when Billy dies. Sorry, spoiler.
Yeah.
I come up to Julie and pick her up, and I say, Julie, don't be mad at me for saying it, but you're better off this way. And the audience goes,
even if some of us are like, she has a point.
But it's like, Carrie, like the timing, like
right. And that's where you're saying,
I think she's trying to make her feel better. It comes out of, and it also comes out of her trying to be the wife that she wants Enoch, that Enoch wants her to be.
Oh,
which is to say the right thing. That's what he would have said.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? She's trying to mend with him at that time. So it's very complicated, but...
And I see why that is another opportunity where you could have played stupid. Like, you could have played her daffy and ignorant and, like, powerless somehow. And instead... she makes mistakes because she's big and she's bold. She says she's herself. In the moment person.
Yeah, she's just like, I have to say this now.
Mm-hmm.
She holds nothing back. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very powerful, so
totally.
It's been fun to kind of figure all those things out.
And with any role like that, is it a matter of seeing what's on the page? I love this idea of what you were thinking on the very first read. Like, do you think of it as you are the puzzle piece and you're fitting into the role, or are you finding an in-between between the character and between you?
For this one, this did not feel like me. I mean, I really felt like
cool.
I don't necessarily think I'm this person at all. I read it and thought, I know who this person is. Like, I could just envision this person, and it took me a minute to kind of find her, but the essence of it, just of her, like, she's such a badass, like, she's just so, like, fearless and so, like, I don't know, I was like, man, I wish I could be this person.
Cool. She's just so charming.
Yeah, she's just like, everyone wants to be her friend. She's super cool.
That's amazing. How does it compare to maybe other, we always like asking the questions about Broadway specifically, but like you mentioned, it's a difficult show. Mm-hmm. How does it compare to Elphaba? How does it compare to other Broadway musical experiences?
I'd say it is just about as hard as anything I've done, barring Wicked, which was like that lives on its own plane of
the makeup
tough.
Alone.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I do love about this role is I never have to be out there alone. I get to share the experience either with Jesse or with Alex or with Amar. And I hate being on stage by myself. I love to have a partner. Ooh. I just find it, I have no interest in like having my own moment out there. I want to be sharing and connecting with, I love the audience, of course, and I'm thrilled that they're there. Partner, but there's nothing like having that connection with another actor. So that is great about this show for me. And also just, it's a new experience, kind of, again, singing in this place. So I'm kind of finding the speaking and the singing, you know, and how to manage my day. And the last thing I did on Broadway was a play, and it's so different to do a play than a musical, just in your daily life. But I also just think the older I get, the more I'm like, I'm less controlling about giving a perfect performance, like we were talking about earlier, and just saying like, this is what I have today, and that's part of the fun is seeing what's going to happen out there, and not feeling so afraid that I have to be just right for everyone who comes every night, and just say like, this is in my body, I know it, and I'm going to go out and have fun with my friends today. And that fear that it sounds like you've tackled or overcome. Well, it's an ongoing journey. Right. Like, what is that? Like, what is the worst that could happen, I guess? Yeah, I don't know. I think I worry about a worry would be, am I going to forget a lyric or a line, or am I going to crack on a note, or things like that. And I just think they're old demons, I think that, and I do think the longer you're in the business, the more you do feel like an expectation to arrive and be what the audience is hoping you'll be. But I think at the same time, no one has seen me do it before, and they don't know what to expect. And I just have to, and that's the nice thing about doing a new show as opposed to doing something like Wicked, where people already know it and they're coming and they're seeing your version of it. I mean, not many people have come and said, I saw the 94 production, because, or especially, even if people have, it was so far away that this feels like a new opportunity for us to kind of just present the material. But yeah, and I want to be as good as everybody wants me to be. So, and I also, I think every audience like deserves my best show, but I've also just had to learn, like, my best is going to be different every day depending on how I'm feeling.
Yeah,
you know?
And that is true of revivals in particular, like maybe older audience members, maybe those who grew up listening to Rodgers and Hammerstein, they must come in with a perception of Carrie.
Definitely. And I've heard a lot of...
Do you have to reconcile, or do you have to think about that? Like,
people have just all said, I've never seen Carrie, played this way.
And what way is that compared to other Carries? I
have no idea, because I really don't know what anyone else has done with it. I mean, I said, I saw that other production, but it was a while ago, and I remember Jessie was wonderful, but like, I don't remember. And
which is nice.
Yeah. And I never saw, I like purposefully just didn't listen to anyone else do the material or try and watch anything.
Cool. Yeah.
So I've never seen Audra's version, which I'm sure is quintessential and incredible. But yeah, I just kind of was like, I better just make this my own. I really try to always do that. I never like to listen to any other recordings of anything I learn or watch anything, because it just, why would you do it?
Yeah, and that is the question facing anyone doing a revival of anything.
Oh yeah.
You gotta not look at the other examples.
Yeah, so when people are like, "Oh, it's so different the way you're playing it," I'm like, "Well, how else would you play it?" Like, I don't see any other way.
And like you said, it's specific to this 2018 production.
Yep. It's also specific to what Jack's idea of what he wanted, and his sensibility and his humor. He's so brilliant. And Alex and Jessie. It's just kind of like all of us together what this ended up wanting to be.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It's not just one dude's vision.
Not at all. It was like all of us putting this thing together and finding where we wanted the story to breathe and have humor and be fun. And that's not just, my contribution. It's Jessie plays a huge part in that, and Alex and Renee and John. I mean, we all just like play together in this beautiful way to let the story kind of have that light when it needs it, because it's heavy.
Yeah. I got that from I do get that from the production, that you guys thought about when to breathe and when to celebrate and when to mourn and when to...
Yeah. To let the audience... I mean, I find it... There's like this last scene in the play where Jessie and I have this little scene at the table, and the audience laughs so hard at it, I think, because the ballet is so sad.
Yeah, it is a release valve a little bit.
And they just... You can tell, like, they need that
it's
humor.
Like, Carrie, thank God,
it's like,
Carrie's here.
Please let us, like... you know what I mean? And it's funny, because when I read that scene, I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. But, like, I didn't really see it as, like... this, but I can tell it's just the audience is needing that release, and it's fun to kind of feel that. Yeah.
Circling back to the Audra question.
Yes.
Even though you haven't seen it, it's true that I believe that she wasn't Audra McDonald before Carousel.
Yes, it was her first
and then
role,
she was Audra McDonald.
She won the Tony, yeah. Right.
So where does that fall into your...
Thanks for bringing that up.
What's your relationship with Audra McDonald in particular, but also with, her trajectory in this show?
I haven't given that too much thought, so thank you.
Yeah.
No,
have you met her? You've worked with her?
Yes. Yeah. I worship Audra. I love her. She's been a really wonderful light whenever I've been around her, and so supportive and kind and wonderful always. I haven't gotten to see her yet during this process. I'm hoping she'll come,
Sure.
But it's also weird. It's weird to go see things you've done. It's very strange.
Yeah.
I've had that experience too, and so I don't blame her if she wants to keep her own experience in her head. But I respect her immensely. I think she's just the most insane artist ever. As far as this goes for me, I'm just like thrilled to be on the ride. I feel excited to that people are loving the show. I feel like, I've already gotten so many different opportunities to kind of flex my little acting muscles, and I have no idea what will come after this, but I'm just kind of trying to live in this now place of really, I keep reminding myself that I'm so lucky to be on that stage every night and just like really enjoying every moment. I keep getting that advice, like just enjoy this time, because I think so much you're so tired and you're so like, there's so many events. The Tony season is wild. Yeah. And getting lost in all of that can, it can be tough to kind of keep your head in the game. And I thought, like, wow, like during the Tony junket yesterday, people kept asking, like, what are you thinking? What do you think? And I'm thinking, I have 2 shows today.
Yeah.
And I was like, but actually that's wonderful, because this is why this is why I'm here. It's to
Sure.
do the work. Like, all the other stuff is so wonderful, but like I'm here because I love
Totally.
to do this. I love to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what comes after, it's all gravy. This has all just been wonderful.
Right. That ride you're talking about, like it could take you anywhere and you're willing to go, but it's not a question of looking ahead.
No, I mean, I just think there's no way.
You can't even do it.
No, I mean, I never could have looked ahead to this moment. There's no way. If someone would have told me I was playing Carrie Pipperidge in the Carousel revival 5 years ago, I would have said, haha.
Yeah.
I mean, I just could never have seen this in my wildest. And now I'm like, oh, there was no other way for me to go. I had to play this. But so I really don't believe in looking ahead. I'm just like, let me try and be Carrie and live in the moment.
And it seems like that is a question I ask now. More and more I'm finding that actors in general, but I think especially theater actors, their answer is always something along the lines of like, I am just in the now.
Yeah.
Partly because I have to be. It's the nature of yesterday was a perfect example where you had two shows and in addition to this junket, but like a theater actor is there on stage and they are there to connect with the audience and to connect and to, if you're thinking about your next, I don't know, film audition as you're up there singing your high notes, that's not exactly going to click.
Yeah. And you know, and I think we all get, you know, we're all on different contracts. And so, I mean, even if I were to look ahead, it's like, I know I'm going to be doing the show for a while and that's my focus. And I think that's what our amazing producer Scott, like that's what he wants and that's what I want too. I want this to just be my, you know, my primary focus. And we have a ton of friends and people coming and I'm just, you know, we worked so hard to get the show up. It's like now we just get to enjoy the run. And so that's where I'm going to stay for now.
And that Tony season frenzy, you must have been familiar with it to an extent,
well,
despite not being nominated
you'd be surprised.
before.
I've never really been in a show that's been lauded critically. Except Everyday Rapture was nominated for a couple things. Yeah. But that's really the only time. I mean, I wasn't in Godspell that season. I was out already doing Dogfight. Yeah. And
Dogfight was big, but it was in the off-Broadway kind of circuit.
And it was one of those shows that opened in the summer, so it didn't get acknowledged until you know what I mean?
I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's like tough in the season to be recognized. Yeah. But I did get to do most of the awards that season, which was cool, but the show was closed. So, and I was already in Wicked. Right. It was like, that was a crazy season of its own. So this is definitely, I was not prepared for it. And my husband and I were talking about that last night. It was like, at first it was always just like, let's just get to April 12th. And now I'm like, see you June 11th.
Yeah, totally. What happens after June 11th?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a deep breath.
I'm going to tell you, it's like a big glass of wine. Beyond that, I don't know, but I'm definitely gonna celebrate and kick back a second.
Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question, which
is about wine.
It's about wine.
Okay.
Like I kind of actually. In terms of, we just really like asking the like, how do you take care of your voice type questions and the enduring and the surviving 8 shows a week as a musical theater actor and your voice is so gorgeous, and how do you keep it that way? What are your tricks? Are you willing to reveal your tricks and rituals?
I don't know. No.
I mean, you teach these things as well. So.
Yeah. You know, I'm a big. I steam every day. I also, a lot of people. I was taught. I take from Victoria Clark. She's taught me a ton about my voice.
Like as a voice teacher. Mm-hmm. Like one-on-one vocal coaching with Victoria Clark.
Yes, sir.
I didn't know that at all.
She's the one who I initially sang Mr. Snow with, and you know she kind of got me prepared. But
because she's a soprano.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she's amazing.
Wow.
And she's the one who taught me that you shouldn't sing in the shower because it's so humid in there and it feels so great. It feels so great.
This is a great tip.
But then when you get out, dryness, and then it's never gonna feel as good. So you should breathe and steam, but save the singing for when you're out of there. So and I really do try and stick to no dairy, no I can't eat right before a show. I kind of have to eat at least 3 hours before, which means I'm usually starving after, which is also not great, but what are you gonna do?
Sure, but yeah.
And I'm super aware of my speaking voice. I think a lot of people speak off their voice, or don't kind of speak in in like the forward place, and I clearly always live in the forward place, as your listeners can hear. But that kind of is the most healthy space to stay in. And you know, I think I'm super aware of my voice all the time. I know when it's tired. Yeah. I know when it feels great. I know if I'm phlegmy, it must mean I'm tired, or I ate something that, you know, I shouldn't have.
Wow.
But also, I think the thing I've learned the most through this process is my breathing. The breathing is very different for this type of singing, and if you're super connected with your breath, that will set you free. And I think people take shallow breath, or they breathe from their shoulders, and they'll never get enough air. You really have to take like a good like low like back breath.
Yeah. Well, and it seems like that kind of breathing is the quickest shortcut to knowing your body, to like being familiar with what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been the breathing has really been a thing to kind of set me free through this process. I'm always interested in hearing, especially from singers, like, because you're so familiar with your voice, and because you're like, oh, it sounds a little phlegmy because of X, you're not wondering. You're like, oh, it's because I ate that thing, or it's because I didn't get that amount of rest, or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it depends. Like for me, I know like on a 2-show day, my second show, I'll usually be phlegmy because my body's like, oh, we already did our job.
Oh.
And then we're like, oh, we're doing it again? Oh, okay.
Yeah, your brain thinks, oh, we've done it once, so we're done.
So I still kind of have to just combat that. I'm also like, I drink so much water, like through the show too. I mean, that's been, and I haven't always been like the most watery gal, but now I am, because that, even if you do get phlegmy, it'll thin out the mucus. Delicious. You're welcome.
Yum. Yeah, we love it's perfect. That's why a podcast is kind of perfect for talking about stuff like this.
Totally.
But in terms of how have you seen it change your voice?
Oh, like, well, I mean, just the fact that I'm singing this material is shocking.
Yeah.
But I've found that this kind of singing is just much easier to deliver every night. It's just consistent. It feels good. It doesn't feel like, I never feel tired when I'm singing the material. Speaking, I'll feel tired, but never the singing. It's just it just feels more natural.
That's what
to me.
LaChante said that yesterday too. She said that because in her show she doesn't just have speaking, she has narration, which is like you have to get it all the way to the back of the theater. And the singing for her is no problem.
Yeah.
It's the speaking that's it's that front of voice versus or front of mouth.
For all of us, Renee always says that too. She says she hates speaking or going out after to like a loud place. Like she's like, I can't do it. Then you hear her singing voice. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding? Ridiculous. It can fill 1 million theaters.
Ridiculous. Yeah. Alcohol. That's another.
Yeah, I've kind of had to leave her be for a while. The thing about especially, I'm a big wine drinker. I love wine, but it's fermented, and the sugars in it and all of that kind of tend to build yeast.
Okay.
And yeast is really bad for your cords and your chest and lungs and all of that. So I've had to kind of.
This is great.
Yeah. So I've just kind of recently learned this too. I go to this amazing ENT, Dr. Linda Dahl.
Okay.
Plug. She's the greatest, and she's really taught me a lot about kind of the holistic approach to taking care of my cords and voice, and so I take a ton of supplements, and she was like, you can have vodka because that's not.
So it didn't do anything.
But even then, I mean, it's just.
But it dehydrates.
It just makes you tired and dehydrates you, and so I'll, if I really would want to go out and have a drink, I'll have like one. But I mean, it's pretty. I'm trying to just.
Well, and you're not going to go to a bar and shout at people at the bar.
Probably not.
To get heard.
Yeah. But yeah. So I've, I am going to Napa for my vacation.
When is that?
I mean, it's so far away.
In summer. Oh, okay.
Like
Later
past
in.
summer.
Oh,
Okay. Actually, Derek
you're
Klenn is getting married in Napa.
Oh, cute.
So I'm going to his
fun.
wedding, and
That's fun.
also going to have time for myself and my husband. So
maybe
I'll get to have wine then.
How often do you see this ENT doctor?
I go. I go on a like case by case like need.
Yeah.
But also I have her number, and I can just text her and say, what do I do?
Is it ever like an emergency?
I've gone to ENT for emergency before, but not on this contract.
Oh, cool.
But I mean, you just there's moments where you feel something. You feel like
Something's coming.
I'm extra tired or something's coming on. And I just always like to be like, just show me my chords and let's make sure that nothing is bad.
Show me. Okay.
So I get to see them on a camera.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
that helps you, like,
even if and then I can say, okay, well, whatever tiredness I'm feeling, there's nothing going on, so I can push through it, or I need to stop and regroup. So that's kind of the nice thing to me about going, is you just kind of get that peace of mind either way. Because I mean, they're like so valuable, and they're like my most valuable muscles. So I just want to make sure
your
that
moneymaker.
So I'm really pretty strict about taking care of it. And I think I've seen a lot of people, hurt themselves or because they were trying to push through, and it's like nothing's worth that. You can always you have this one set,
Yeah.
So I'm just really
it sounds like you've never come close to that level of not taking care of yourself.
No, thank goodness, because I'm super aware of them all the time.
Yeah, you got to be.
Yes.
We love the acting advice, and we should probably talk about auditions as well, but because you're a teacher and because you work with these students, first of all, what generally do you teach, or what do you find is the most often thing that needs to be imparted to early career musical theater actors, or what's like a misconception, or what do you find yourself constantly reminding them?
I think branding yourself is
okay.
Yeah, I just think people come in with this like vague sense of thinking they have to dress a certain way. Everyone dresses the same way for auditions, and everyone has the same material in their book, and that's just not the way to go. You really want to say like, what is the niche I fit in best? Who are the people I can look at that have careers and say like, I'm a mix of this person and this person.
Cool.
So I'm going to Google everything X person has done and everything Y person has done, and put a lot of that stuff in my book. And then when I come in, people are like, oh, you're a mini blah, blah, blah.
Because people do that. They're like, you're the Kristen Chenoweth. You're the...
100%. That's like all people do is, oh, you're a Glinda. Oh, you're a, you know what I mean?
Or even
you're a
just
Jersey
your
boy.
Your voice is this, your voice is that. Yeah.
So I would say that's number one. And number two, dance.
Oh.
Just...
Like constantly, like train.
I just can't tell you how many actors come in and say, I'm a 2 out of 10. And the truth is, when you first get started, you're not going to be cast as a principal. You're going to be in the ensemble covering, and you're going to have to dance. Yeah. And I see people lose jobs all the time from the dance call. And it's like, why? Like, get into dance class. Not everybody has to dance like the dancers in Carousel.
Right.
But like, you do have to have a sense of your body, and you do have to be able to, turn and kick and look like you're comfortable in your own skin.
Sure.
And dance class is not expensive, and it's healthy and great. And I just think like, if you're choosing between like another voice lesson or like 4 dance classes, like take the dance classes.
That's excellent advice. I feel like that's probably even true for dramatic actors, for non-musical, because like you said, it just puts you in touch with your body. It just
totally.
Yeah.
I just think
coordination. Simple.
Yeah. And I know people get afraid of it, or they say, well, that's just not my thing. And it's like, well, you're going to cut yourself out of 80% of the job opportunities.
Because how often does someone brand new to the musical theater scene just land the principal role?
Yeah. I mean, the first 3 Broadway shows I did, I had to like hoof my butt off.
Yeah. Right.
And I danced my whole life, and I'm grateful for that. And even in Carousel, like, I begged Justin to put a dance section in June for me because I really wanted to dance. And I thought that it would be fun for Carrie to dance. And
I saw that.
And he ended up, I love doing it, and he was really excited and grateful. And it was a great way to kind of integrate the principals with the ensemble in that way.
I was going to say, that was really noticeable that you had a dance section, and Joshua Henry dances his butt off.
Yep.
And that's not, especially in a lot of the old classic revivals, you don't really see the principals doing that.
Well, and Justin didn't envision that. I had to like kind of come to him and say like, I can dance. And he just didn't know that he could ask us to do it.
Sure.
And I thought like...
he cast a bunch of ballet trained. Yeah.
But, and I think he just was like, I didn't expect the principals to have to dance. But I also I thought about my students when I did it. I thought, you know what?
Sure.
I'm the one always preaching to them, you have to dance.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dance in this show, damn it.
That's great. That's excellent advice. This idea, I'm fascinated by the idea of like, find the person whose career you can maybe either it's a type or it's that these are the types of projects I want to be in, and that person's been in those. What are yours? Did you have like a combination of a bunch of different actresses, or?
I mean, look, I saw Sara Ramirez, when I was growing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I was obsessed with her. Yes. Still am.
Yes.
So she was a big one for me. But then I also to be honest with you, I don't think there were a lot of women like me.
Yes,
growing up.
This is what I want to ask you about as well.
And I saw, I saw Patti LuPone and Ethel Merman, but they were all playing roles that, I was going to play in my 40s
Did you
and
see
50s.
Ethel Merman on stage?
No, are you kidding? I'm not that old. No, but just like you know what I mean.
The idea.
And
of Ethel
I loved,
Merman. Yeah.
I loved Judy Garland growing up, and Barbara, of course, and
Sure.
so all of these kind of iconic women, but. Really, on Broadway, I didn't see a lot of people like me. I'd say Sara was like kind of the only one. So I felt a little bit stuck. And my first agent, I remember, she was like, "You're not really going to work until you're 40."
Why? What happens when you're 40?
I don't know. Just that she thought that because I was not thin, that I just wouldn't. I wouldn't work. And.
Was she talking about musical theater specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she also was like, well, you're not heavy enough to play someone heavy. So you are in this middle place. So you either need to lose weight or gain weight. And I was like, I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think most women in life are my size. But
absolutely.
So I fought myself with that, and whether I wanted to change who I was one extent or another, or just kind of believe that I could find a place, and I chose to do that, and then I found someone else to work with.
I was going to say, you could have listened to that agent and really beat yourself up about these limitations, or you could have carved something for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
And maybe not needed examples. It's always good to have those examples to model your career off of, but sometimes you got to have the initiative and the courage, I think.
Yeah, and look, I also had, I was lucky enough to be getting bites, so at least people were affirming that there was a place for me. You know what I mean? I think that's the difference too. If you go through like 4 years of audition seasons with no bites, you got to kind of regroup. I was lucky enough to have little things here and there. I mean, I also moved here when I was 18, so I could play teenagers quite easily because I was one.
Yeah.
But I'd say getting enough of those little bites along the way, I felt like, you know what, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, and not try to fit into some mold of some other thing.
Yeah.
Type.
Yeah. And I also think I had an agent when I moved here, so and I kind of always had one, so that was easier too because I could get submitted for things. Like I think when you're doing the wake up at 4 a.m. and cattle calls,
go to a cattle call, you got in Backstage.
They're not giving you as much time. They're just they're just putting you in piles.
It's experience, but it's a lot tougher.
Sure.
Did you get this agent from just high school?
Actually, I won a singing competition in LA when I was a junior in high school, and I got the agent through winning that at the Los Angeles Music Center.
What did you sing?
Timely. God, good morning. I sang Waiting for Life from Once on This Island.
Really?
Yes.
How funny.
There is some incriminating video.
Is there?
100%.
There's a lot of videos of you out there.
Oh, God. Tell me about it.
that one, I see. So that got you the agent. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And the dream was always New York and Broadway.
Yeah. There was no other. I literally was not good at anything else. So
there's no plan B.
No.
And do you recommend that, do you have that piece of advice that I hear often, which is, if you want to do it, you got to know that that's what you want to do, and you got to want to do nothing else.
I do. I stand by it.
Yeah.
It's true because it's a really hard business, but it's a wonderful business.
Yeah.
But you have to know there's literally nothing else for you.
Yeah. And this thing that you said about you're auditioning, maybe if someone's auditioning for a long time and they're not getting the bites, this idea of regrouping, what does that mean?
I think get into a new class, find a new mentor,
maybe a new agent.
Yeah, maybe a new agent. Just you need support. You need encouragement. You need mentorship. I mean, I have Joe Mantello's my second dad and mentor to me. I have Vicki Clark. And I've always had all these people in my life that are constantly giving me advice and boosting me and supporting my journey. And I just I feel like you have to have those people on your side, and you have to be open enough to hear people because I know in actor therapy in my class with Ryan Scott Oliver, we always say especially on someone's first class, we say, we're here to hold up a mirror and tell you what we see. And that's not to hurt or offend, but it's to kind of say, like, this is what you're putting out. And are you happy with that? Or what are you trying to say? And how do we create something that's marketable, but that also feels like it's coming from you and something that you're like, you can 100% stand behind. And so that's kind of what our class is about. But, and so I just think, like, you can always, if you're feeling like, what you're putting out isn't working, you got to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, is it me? Is it my material? Is it how I'm dressed? Am I lacking in an area? Like, you have to be real with yourself. You do have to really kind of look at yourself objectively and practical. Say, what can I do better?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that really is true of any artist. Like, you can't create art into a black hole. You have to also consider the business side of it and the commercial side of it.
I mean, theater's such a business.
Yeah,
it is, and that goes.
You might as well play that game.
Yeah, you have to look at yourself as a product. You do, and then there's social media and your website and YouTube, content. I mean, all the time, if I refer a student to my agent, the first thing they do is just look them up online and look up a video. So if you don't have video content out there, like, you got to get on that. If you don't have a website, you got to do it. You need great headshots. You need to have social media, and you need to stand by your social media. Like, don't have pictures of you wasted with your friends at a bar. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really look at yourself as a product.
Wow. Yeah. That's excellent advice.
Thank you.
What else? What other parting words that we should wrap up? What other words of wisdom do you have?
Didn't I give you enough?
So you have so much. You're a bottomless. You're just a wealth of information.
Am I?
Yeah. You're a genius.
No, I think I think that this is a long game, and it's been so interesting, like, to go through this process, especially with this show and the season, and to be like, wow, I've been here for a long time. This is my 11th year on Broadway already.
Yeah, wow.
But to also be like, I know nothing. I mean, and I learn so much every single day, and there's been times in my life where I've been like, oh, I've got it all figured out, and that's just so not true. And I think you have to constantly live in, like, not knowing what's going to happen next, and try and stay open, and know that, like, you don't even, like, you can't begin to comprehend, like, what you're going to know in a year from now and in 2 years from now. And that's the best thing about being an artist and doing what we do. And I just think, like, the more you can be comfortable living in that scary space of not knowing, the better it's going to be for you. Yeah. It
just all goes back to what you said about, like, it's never going to be perfect, and it's about that constant improvement. It's
totally
and kind of relishing that and kind of loving that process of bettering yourself.
Yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love living in the fear.
That was a brilliant end note. Sorry. That was a really good note to end on. Lindsay Mendez. Congratulations on your Tony nomination.
Oh my God, thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
100%. Thank you.
In the Envelope is recorded at Lotus Productions and Hyperbolic Audio in New York City. Thanks, as always, to producer, editor, and all-around podcast whiz, Jamie Muffett. You can follow him on Twitter at JamieMusicNYC. You can follow me, Jack Smart, on Twitter at JackSmartWrites. Thank you to the team at Backstage, aka the most trusted name in casting, Peter Rappaport, Mark Stinson, Francis Ramos, Rawaan Alkhatib, Caitlin Watkins, Lauren Routt, and especially Tony nominee of my heart, Kasey Howe. For more awards and industry coverage, head over to Backstage.com. Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another glimpse in the envelope.